Hello, good evening. Welcome everyone here and everyone there. Thank you very much joining me and yourself and all your friends. We are doing the reading of the Vishuddhimagga. And so before we start, as usual, please sit upright and tune your motivation, and pay very strong attention to each of the meanings for the benefit of all sentient beings, to remind us all this. First we do the refuge and four immeasurables, followed by recitation of the Heart Sutra mantra. And the Buddha Dhamma Sangha Vidya Bhavachu Ajivandala Ajare Buddha Udubi and the Buddha Dhamma Sangha Ajare Lighten Bhavachu Ajivandala Ajare Buddha Udubi and the Buddha Dhamma Sangha Ajare Lighten Bhavachu Ajivandala Ajare Buddha Udubi. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never die power of happiness that know no suffering. May they know our happiness that know no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. May all beings have happiness, the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know power from happiness that know no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. May all beings have happiness, the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know power from happiness that know no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near and far. Dadam gaden gade barang gade barazang gaden bodozo 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 Dadangade barangade barazangade bodozo, 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 dadangade barazangade bodozo, dadangade barangade barazangade bodozo, dadangade barangade barazangade bodozo. Dadangade barangade barazangade bodozo, dadangade barangade barazangade bodozo. Adengade barangade barazangade bodozo. So the Vishuddhimagga is very, very special classical Buddhist textbook written by none other than Buddhagosha, whose name is very, very special among many luminaries of Indian Buddhist scholars, as really very, very highly revered scholar, and no doubt Arhat. So he came in 5th century, and this book has 3 parts. And the parts are the discipline he calls virtue, meditation, which is called concentration, and understanding, which is wisdom. He calls it understanding, because this is the Vishuddhimagga is written in originally probably Pali, maybe also maybe in Sanskrit, and this was translated from the Pali into English by Bhikkhu Nyanamoli, a German Buddhist monk who lived and died, I think, in Sri Lanka. And this book has 23 chapters. And right now we are doing the 9th chapter on the 4 divine abidings, Brahma Viharas. In Mahayana Buddhism, we call them 4 immeasurables. So we have last time we done up to paragraph 39 we finished. So today we're starting with paragraph 40, the breaking down of the barriers, the sign. When his resentment towards his hostile person has thus allayed, this is talking about how breaking down the barrier from being able to practice loving kindness, then he can turn his mind with loving kindness towards that person too, just as towards the one who is dear, the very dear friend, and a neutral person. Then he should break down the barriers by practicing loving kindness over and over again, accomplishing mental impartiality, mental impartiality towards the 4 person, that is to say, himself, the dear person, the neutral person, and the hostile person. 41. The characteristic of it is this. Suppose this person is sitting in a place with a dear, neutral, and hostile person, himself being the 4th. Then bandits come to him, say, "Venerable Sir, give us a bhikkhu." And on being asked why, they answer, "So that we may kill him and use the blood of his throat as an offering." Then if that bhikkhu thinks, "Let them take this one or this one," he has not broken down the barriers. And also if he thinks, "Let them take me, but not these 3, he has not broken down the barriers either. Why? Because he seeks the harm for him, harm of him whom he wishes to be taken, and seeks the welfare of the other only. But it is when he does not see a single among the 4 people to be given to the bandits, and he directs his mind impartially towards himself and toward those 3 people, that he has broken down. That he has broken down the barriers. Hence, the ancient teachings say, when he discriminates between the 4, that is himself, the dear, the neutral, and the hostile one, then skilled is not the name he gets, nor having enmity at will, but only kindly towards beings. Now, when a bhikkhu's barrier have all the 4 been broken down, he treats with equally enmity the whole world with its deities. Far more distinguished than the first is he who knows no barriers. 43. Thus, the sign and access are obtained by this bhikshu simultaneously with the breaking down of the barriers. But when breaking down of the barriers has been effected, he reaches absorption in the way described under the earth kashina without trouble by cultivating, developing, and repeatedly practicing that same sign. At this point, he has attained the first jhana, which abandons 5 factors, possesses 5 factors, is good in 3 ways, is endowed with the 10 characteristics, and is accompanied by loving kindness. And when that has been obtained, then cultivating, developing, and repeatedly practicing that same sign, he successively reaches the second and third jhanas in the fourfold system, and the second, third, and fourth in the fivefold system. The text and commentary. 44. Now it is by means of one of these jhanas, beginning with the first that he dwells pervading intent upon one direction, with his heart endued with loving kindness. Likewise the second direction, likewise the third direction, likewise the fourth direction, and so above, below, and around. Everywhere and equally he dwells pervading the entire world, with his heart endued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, measureless, free from enmity, and free from affliction. For this versatility comes about only in one whose consciousness has reached absorption in the first jhana and the rest. 45. And here endued with loving kindness means possessing loving kindness. With his heart, with his mind, one direction. This refers to any one direction in which our being is first discerned, and means pervasion of beings included in that one direction. Pervading, touching, making his object. Dwells, he causes the occurrence of an abiding in posture that is devoted to divine abiding. Likewise, the second, just as he dwells pervading any one direction among those beginning with the eastern one, so he does with the next one and the third and fourth, and is the meaning. 46. So above, in that same way, in the upper direction is what is meant. Below, around, so too lower direction and the direction all around. Herein, below is underneath, around is in intermediate direction. So he sends his heart full of loving kindness back and forth in all directions, like a horse in a circus circus ground. Up to this point, specified pervasion with loving kindness shown in the discernment of each direction separately. 47. Everywhere, etc., is said for the purpose of showing unspecified perversion. Here in everywhere, he means in all places, equally to all class as inferior, medium, superior, friendly, hostile, neutral, etc., just as to oneself, equally with oneself, without making the distinction. This is another being, is what is meant. Or alternately, equally is with whole state of mind, not reserving even little, is what is meant. Entire, possessing all beings, associated with all beings, is the meaning. The world is the world of beings. 48. Endue with loving kindness is said again here in order to introduce the synonyms beginning with abundant. All alternately imbued loving kindness is repeated because the word likewise or word so is not repeated here as it was in the case of preceding specified perversion. Or alternatively, it is said as a way of concluding. And abundance should be regarded here as abundance in pervading, but it is exalted in plane from the sensual sphere plane to the fine material plane, measureless through familiarity and through having measureless being as its object, free from enmity through abandonment of ill will and hostility, and free from affliction through abandonment of grief, without suffering is what is meant. This is the meaning of the versatility described beginning with his heart endued with loving kindness. 49. And just as his versatility is successful only in one whose mind has reached absorption, so too that described in the Patisambhida should be understood to be successful only in one whose mind has reached absorption. That is to say, the mind deliverance of loving kindness is practiced but with unspecified perversion in 5 ways. The mind deliverance of loving kindness is practiced with a specified perversion in 7 ways. The mind deliverance of loving kindness is practiced with directional perversion in 10 ways. 50. And herein, the mind deliverance of loving kindness is practiced with unspecified perversion in these 5 ways. May all beings be free from enmity and anxiety and happily. May all breathing beings and all creatures, all creatures, all persons, all those who have personality be free from enmity, affliction, anxiety, and live happily. 51. The mind deliverance of loving kindness is practiced with specified perversion in 7 ways. May all women be free from enmity, affliction, and anxiety, and live happily. May all men, may all noble ones, all not noble ones, all deities, all humans, in all states of loss, free from enmity, affliction, anxiety, and live happily. 52. The mind deliverance of loving kindness is practiced with the directional perversion. In these 10 ways, may all beings in the eastern direction be free from enmity, affliction, anxiety, live happily. May all beings in the western direction, northern direction, southern direction, eastern direction, western direction, intermediate direction, northern intermediate direction, southern intermediate direction, downward direction, upward direction, be free from enmity, affliction, anxiety, and live happily. May all breathing beings in eastern direction, may all creatures in the eastern direction, may all persons in eastern direction, may all those who have a personality eastern direction, in the upper direction, free from enmity, affliction, anxiety, and live happily. May all women in the eastern direction, may all men in the eastern direction, may all noble ones in the eastern direction, may all not noble ones in the eastern direction, may all deities in the eastern direction, may all human beings in the eastern direction. May all those in states of loss in the eastern direction be free from enmity, affliction, anxiety, and live happily. 53. Herein all signifies inclusion without exception. Being satta, they are held satta, gripped, visatta by desire and greed for the aggregates, beginning with materiality. Thus they are beings. For this is said by the Blessed One. Any desire for matter, radha, any greed for it, any delight in it, any craving for it has held it, has gripped it. That is why a being is said. But in ordinary speech, this term of common usage is applied also to those who are without greed, just as a term of common usage, palm fan, is used for different sorts of fans in general, even if made of split bamboo. However, in the world of etymologists, who do not consider meaning have it that it is a mere name, while those who do not consider meaning have it that being satta is called with reference to the bright principle satta. 54. Breathing things, panna, so-called because of their state of breathing, pannanata. The meaning is because their existence depends on an in-breath and out-breath. Creatures, Buddha, so-called because of being Buddhata, or becomeness. The meaning is because of their being fully become, some Buddhata, because of their being generated, Abhinibhadata, persons, Puggala. Pum is said, that hell is called. They fall into that, and is the meaning. Personality personality is what personality is what the physical body is called, or it is called pentad of aggregates, because since it is actually only a concept derived from that pentad of aggregates. What is referred to is include pariyapanna in that personality. Thus, it has a personality included in delimited by, gone into, is the meaning. 55. and all the remaining terms should be understood synonymous for all beings used in accordance with the ordinary speech, as in the case of the term beings. Of course, there are other synonyms too for all beings, such as all folks, all souls, etc. Still, it is for clarity's sake that mind deliverance of loving kindness is practiced with unspecified perversion 5 ways. Is said that only these 5 are mentioned. 56. All those who would have it that is only a mere verbal difference between beings, breathing things, etc., but also an actual difference in meaning, are contradicted by the mention of unspecified perversion. So instead of taking the meaning in that way, the unspecified perversion with loving kindness is done in any one of the 5 ways. And here, may all beings be free from enmity is one absorption. Free from affliction is one absorption. Free from affliction is free from afflictedness. Free from anxiety is one absorption. Free from anxiety is free from suffering. May they live happily is one absorption. Consequently, he should do his pervading with loving kindness according to whichever of these phrases is clear to him. So, with the 4 kinds of absorption, in each of the 5 ways, there are 20 kinds of absorption in unspecified perversion. 57. In specified perversion, with 4 kinds of absorption, each of the 7 ways, there are 28 kinds of absorption. And here, women and men are stated according to sex. The noble ones and not noble ones, according to noble ones and ordinary people, deities and human beings, and those in state of loss according to the kind of rebirth. 58. In direction of perversion, with 20 kinds of absorption in each of the directions, beginning with all beings in the eastern direction, there are 200 kinds of absorption, and with the 28 kinds in each of the direction, beginning with all women in the eastern direction, there are 280 kinds. So these can make 480 kinds of absorption. Consequently, all the kinds of absorption mentioned in the Patisambha is amount is 528. 528, 59. So when this meditator develops a mind, the mind delivers loving kindness through any one of these kinds of absorption. He obtains the 11 advantages described in the way beginning man sleeps in comfort. 60. Herein, sleeps in comfort means that instead of sleeping uncomfortably, turning over and snoring or other people do, he sleeps comfortably. He falls asleep as though entering upon an attainment. 61. He wakes in comfort. Instead of waking uncomfortably, groaning and yawning and turning over as others do, he wakes comfortably without contortions, like a lotus opening. 62. He dreams no evil dreams. When he sees dreams, he sees only auspicious one, as though he were worshipping a shrine, as though he were making an offering, as though he were hearing a dharma. But he does not see evil dreams, as others do, as though being unsurrounded by bandits, as though being threatened by wild beasts, as though falling from chasms. 63. He is dear to human beings. He is as dear to a beloved by human being as a necklace worn to hang on the chest, as a wreath adorning the head. 64. He is dear to non-human beings. He is just as dear to non-human beings as he is to human beings. As in the elder Visakha's case, he was the landowner, it seems, at Pataliputra, Patna. While he was living there, he heard this. The land of Tambapani, Sri Lanka, apparently is adorned with the diadem of shrines and gleams with the yellow cloth, and there man can sit and lie wherever he likes. There the climate is favorable, the abode is favorable, people are favorable, the Dharma is to be heard, is favorable, and all those favorable things are easily obtained there. 65. He made over his fortune to his wife and children and left his home with only a single ducat. kahapana, sewn into the hem of his garment. He stopped for 1 month on the sea coast in expectation of a ship. Meanwhile, by his skill of trading, he made 1,000 during a month by buying goods here and selling them there in a lawful enterprise. 66. Eventually, he comes to the great monastery Mahavihara in Anuradhapura, and there he asks for going forth to homelessness. When he was being conducted to the chapter house for the going forth ceremony, the purse containing the 1,000 pieces dropped out from under the belt. When asked, "What is that?" he replied, "It is 1,000 ducats, Venerable Sir." They told him, "Lay followers, it is not possible to distribute them after going forth. Distribute them now." Then he said, Let none who have come to the scene of Vishaka going forth depart empty-handed, and opening the purse, he strewed them over the chapter house yard, after which he received the going forth and the full ordination. 67. When he had acquired 5 years seniority and has become familiar with the 2 codes, Pratimoksha, he celebrated the Pavarana at the end of the rains retreat, took a meditation subject that suited him, and set out to wander, living for 4 months in each monastery and going the duties on the basis of equality with the resident. While he was wandering in this way, the elder halted in a wood to scan the tenor of his way. He thundered forth this round lay, proclaiming that he found it good. So from your full admission day till in this place you paused and stood. No stumbling mars your bhikkhuhood. Be thankful for such grace, I say. 68. On his way to Chittalapabhata, he came to roadwork and stood wondering which turn to take. Then a deity living in the rock held out a hand pointing out a road to him. 69. He came to the Chittalapabhata monastery. After he had stayed there for 4 months, he lay down thinking, "In the morning I'll depart." Then a deity living in the Manila tree at the end of the walk sat down on the step of the stairs and burst into tears. The elder asked, "Who is that?" "It is I, Manilaya, Venerable Sir. What are you weeping for?" "Because you are going away." What does my living here what good does my living here to you? "Venerable Sir, as long as you live here, non-human beings treat each other kindly. Now when you are gone, they will start quarrel and lose talk." The elder said, "If my living here makes you live peace, that is good." So he stayed there another 4 months. Then he again thought of leaving, but the deity wept as before, and so the elder lived on there, and it was there he attained Nibbana. This is how a bhikkhu who abides in loving kindness is dear to non-human beings. 70. Deities guard him as a mother and a father guard their child. 71. Fire, poisons, and weapons do not affect him. They do not enter into the body of one who abides in loving kindness, like the fire in the case of the lay woman devotee Uttara, like the poison in the case of the Samyutta reciter, the elder Chula Siva, like the knife in the case of a novice Sankesha. They do not disturb the body, is what is meant. 72. Then they tell a story of a cow here too. The cow was giving milk to her calf, it seems. A hunter, thinking I'll shoot her, flourished a long-handled spear in his hand and flung it. It struck her body and bounced off like a palm palm leaf, and that was owning neither to access nor to absorption, but simply to the strength of our consciousness of love for our calf. So mightily powerful is loving kindness. 73. His mind is easily concentrated. The mind of one who abides in loving kindness is quickly concentrated. There is no sluggishness about it. 74. The expression of his face is serene. His face has a serene expression, like palmyra fruit from its stem. 75. He dies unconfused. There is no dying deluded for one who abides in loving kindness. He passes away undeluded, as if falling asleep. 76. If he penetrates no higher, if he is unable to reach higher than the attainment of loving kindness and attain arahanthood, then when he falls from his life, he reappears in the Brahma world as one who wakes up from sleep. This is the detailed explanation of development of loving kindness. So that's the first of the 4 Brahma Viharas. It's very interesting how it spells out the Brahma Vihara of loving kindness. It finishes off with all the benefit and blessings. Now we come to the second Brahma Vihara, that is the compassion. 77. One who wants to develop compassion should begin his task by reviewing the danger in lack of compassion and advantage in compassion. And when he begins it, he should not direct it at first toward the dear, etc. persons, for one who is simply dear simply retains the position of one who is dear. A very dear companion retains the position of a very dear companion. One who is neutral retains the position of one who is neutral. One who is antipathetic retains the position of one who is antipathetic. And one who is hostile retains the position of one who is hostile. One who is the one of the opposite sex and one who is dead are also not the field for it. So they're talking about the inappropriate object of compassion for some reason. 78. In the Vibhanga it is said, and how does a bhikshu dwell pervading one direction with a heart endued with compassion? Just as he would feel compassion on seeing an unlucky, unfortunate person, so he pervades all beings with compassion. Therefore, first of all, on seeing a wretched man, unlucky, unfortunate, in every way a fit object of compassion, unsightly, reduced to utter misery, with hands and feet cut off, sitting in the shelter for the helpless, with a pot placed before him, with a mass of maggots oozing from his arms and legs, and moaning, compassion should be felt for him in this way. This being has indeed been reduced to misery, if only he could be freed from suffering. But if he does not encounter such a person, then he can arouse compassion for an evil-doing being, even though he is happy, by comparing him to one about to be executed. How? 79. Suppose a robber has been caught with stolen goods, and in accordance with the king's command to execute him, the king's man bind him and lead him off the place of execution, giving him 100 blows to sets of 4. Then people give him things to chew and eat, and also garlands and perfumes, unguents and betel leaves. Although he doesn't, he goes along eating, enjoying these things as though he were happy and well off. Still, no one fancies that he is really happy and well off. On the contrary, people feel compassion for him, thinking this poor wretch is now about to die. Every step he takes brings him nearer to the presence of death. So too, a bhikshu whose meditation subject is compassion should arouse compassion for an evil-doing person if he is happy. Though this poor wretch is now happy, cheerful, enjoying his wealth, still for want of even one good deed done now in any of the three doors of body, speech, mind, he can come to experience untold suffering in the states of loss. 80. Having aroused compassion for that person in that way, he should next arouse compassion for a dear person, next to a neutral person, and next for a hostile person successively in that way. 81. But if resentment towards a hostile person arises in the way already described, he should make it subside in the way described under loving kindness. And here too, when someone has done profitable deeds, and the meditator sees and hears what he has been overtaken by one of the kinds of ruin, beginning with ruin of health, relatives, property, etc., he deserves the meditator's compassion, and so he does too in any case, even with no such ruin. Thus, in reality, he is unhappy, because he is not exempt from the suffering of the round of becoming. And in the way already described, the meditator should break down the barriers between the four kinds of people, that is to say, himself, the dear person, neutral person, and the hostile person. Then, cultivating that sign, developing it, repeatedly practicing, he should increase the absorption by the triple and quadruple jhana in the way already stated under loving kindness. 82. But in order to gain, the order given in the Anguttara commentary is that a hostile person should first be made the object of compassion, and when the mind has been made malleable with respect to him, next the unlucky person, next the dear person, next oneself. That does not agree with the text, an unlucky, unfortunate person. Therefore, he should begin the development, break down the barriers, and increase absorption only in the way stated here. 83. After that, the versatility consisting in the unspecified perversion in 5 ways, the specified perversion in 7 ways, and directional perversion in 10 ways, and the advantage described as he sleeps in comfort, etc., should be understood in the same way as given under loving kindness. This is the detailed explanation development of compassion. So the compassion was rather brief. And the third is the gladness or joyfulness. 84. One who begins the development of gladness, gladness is translated from mudita, as one of the divine abidings, is always sense of gladness at others' success, sometimes rendered as altruistic joy or sympathetic joy. Should not start with a dear person and the rest, for a dear person is not the proximate cause of gladness merely in virtue of dearness, how much less the neutral and hostile person. One of the opposite of the sex and one who is dead are also not the fear for it. So, 85. However, the very dear companion who can be the proximate cause for it, one who is in the commentaries called a boon companion, for he is constantly glad, he laughs at first, speaks afterwards, so he should be the first to be pervaded with gladness. On seeing, on hearing about dear person being happy, cheerful and glad, gladness can be aroused thus. This being is indeed glad. How good, how excellent, for this is what is referred to in the Vibhanga. And how does a bhikkhu dwell pervading in one direction with his heart endued with gladness? Just as he would be glad in seeing a dear and loved one, so he pervades all beings with gladness. 86. But if his boon companion or the dear person was happy in the past, but is now unlucky and unfortunate, then gladness can still be aroused by remembering his past happiness and apprehending the glad aspect in this way. In the past he had a great wealth, great following, and he was always glad. All gladness can be aroused by apprehending the future glad aspect in him. In this way, in the future, he will again enjoy similar success and he will go about in good palanquins, on the backs of elephants and horseback, and so on. Having then aroused gladness with respect to the dear person, he can then direct it successfully towards the neutral person and after that towards a hostile one. 87. But if resentment towards hostile one arises in him in the way already described, he should make it subside in the same way as described under loving kindness. He should break down the barriers by means of mental impartiality towards the four, that is, towards these three and himself, and by cultivating that sign, developing and repeatedly practicing it, he should increase the absorption to triple and quadruple jhana in the way already stated under loving kindness. Next, the versatility consisting in unspecified perversion in 5 ways, specified perversion in 7 ways, directional perversion in 10 ways, and also the advantage described as he sleeps in comfort, etc., should be understood in the same way as stated under loving kindness. This is the detailed explanation of development of gladness. So that concludes. Now the fourth divine abiding is equanimity. 88. One who wants to develop equanimity must have already obtained the triple quadruple jhana in loving kindness and so on. He should emerge from the third jhana in the fourfold reckoning after he has made it similar, and he should see danger in former 3 divine abidings because they are linked with attention given to beings' enjoyment in the way beginning. May they be happy. Because resentment and approval are near, and because the association with joy is gross. And he should also see the advantage in equanimity because it is peaceful. Then he should arouse equanimity by looking on with equanimity at a person who is normally neutral, after that at a dear person and the rest. For this is said, and how does a bhikshu dwell at pervading one direction with his heart imbued with equanimity, just as he would feel equanimity on seeing a person who has neither beloved nor unloved, nor so he pervades all beings with equanimity. So therefore, he should arouse equanimity towards neutral person in the way already stated. Then, through the neutral one, he should break down the barriers in each case between the 3 people and the dear person and the boon companion, and then the hostile one, and lastly himself. And he should cultivate that sign, develop and repeatedly practice it. 90. As he does the 4th jhana arise in him, the way described under the earth kashina. But how then? Does this arise in one in whom the 3rd jhana has already arisen on the basis of earth kashina, etc.? It does not. Why not? Because of the dissimilarity of the object. It arises only in one in whom the 3rd jhana has arisen on the basis of loving kindness, etc., because the object is similar. But after the versatility and obtaining the advantage should be understood in the same way as described under loving kindness. This is the detailed explanation of development of equanimity. General 91. Now, having thus known these divine abiding, told by the Divine One, Brahma, supremely wise, there is a general explanation too concerning them that he should recognize the meaning. 92. As to the meaning, firstly, loving kindness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity. It fattens. Thus it is loving kindness. It is solvent, is the meaning. Also it comes about with respect to a friend, or as a behavior towards a friend. Thus it is loving kindness, metta. When there is suffering in others, it causes good person's heart to be moved. Thus it is compassion. Or alternatively, it combats the other's suffering, attacks and demolishes it, and thus it is compassion. Or alternatively, it is scattered upon those who suffer. It is extended to them by perversion. Thus it is compassion. Those endowed with it are glad, and itself is glad, or it is the mere act of being glad, and thus it is gladness, mudita. It looks on at upekkati, abandoning such interestedness as thinking, may they be free from enmity, and having recourse to neutrality. Thus it is equanimity, the upekka. Characteristic, etc. 93. As to characteristic, etc., loving kindness is characterized as promoting the aspect of welfare. Its function is to prefer welfare. It is manifested as the removal of annoyance. Its approximate cause is seeing lovableness in beings. It succeeds when it makes ill will subside. It fails when it produces selfish affliction. Come 94. Compassion is characterized as promoting others' suffering. It is manifested as non-cruelty. Its proximate cause is to see helplessness in those overwhelmed by suffering. It succeeds when it makes cruelty subside. It fails when it produces sorrow. 95. Gladness is characteristic as gladdening produced by others' success. Its function resides in being unenvious. It is manifested as the elimination of aversion, boredom. Its proximate cause is seeing being success. It succeeds when it makes aversion, boredom subside, and it fails when it produces merriment. Equanimity. 96. Equanimity is characterized as promoting the aspect of neutrality towards beings. Its function is to see equality in beings. It is manifested as quieting of resentment and approval. Its proximate cause is seeing worship, ownership of deeds. Kamma. Thus, beings are owners of their deeds, whose, if not theirs, is the choice by which they will become happy, or will get free from suffering, or will not fall away from the success they have reached. It succeeds when it makes resentment and approval subside, and it fails when it produces the equanimity of unknowing, which is the worldly-minded indifference of ignorance based on house life. Purpose. 97. The general purpose of these four abidings is the bliss of insight and excellent form for future existence, that peculiar to which each is respectively the warding of ill will, and so on. For here loving kindness has the purpose of warding off ill will, while the others have a respective purpose of warding off cruelty, aversion, boredom, and greed or resentment. And this is said too, for this is escape from ill will, friends, that is to say, a mind deliverance from loving kindness. For this is the escape from cruelty, friends, that is to say, the mind deliverance of compassion. For this is escape from boredom, friends, that is to say, mind deliverance from gladness. For this is the escape from greed, friends. This is the mind deliverance of equanimity. Near and far enemies. 98. And here each one has two enemies, one near and one far. The divine abiding of loving kindness has greed as its near enemy, since both share seeing virtues. Greed behaves like a foe who keeps close by a man and easily finds an opportunity. So loving kindness should be well protected from it, and ill will, which is dissimilar with the similar greed, is its far enemy, like a foe ensconced in a rock wilderness. So loving kindness must be practiced free from fear of that, for it is not possible to practice loving kindness and feel anger simultaneously. 99. Compassion has grief based on the home life as its near enemy, since both share in seeing failure. Such grief has been described in the way beginning, when a man either regards as a privation, failure to obtain visible objects, so cognizable by the eye, that are sought after, desired, agreeable, gratifying, and associated with worldliness, or when he recalls those formerly obtained that are past, cease, and change, then grief arises in him. Such grief as this is called grief based on home life. And cruelty, which is similar to which is dissimilar to the similar grief, is its far enemy. So compassion must be practiced free from fear of that. For it is not possible to practice compassion and be cruel to breathing things simultaneously. 100. Gladness has joy based on the home life as its near enemy, since both share seeing success. Such joy has been described in the way beginning, when a man either regards as gain the obtaining of visible objects, cognizable by the eye that are sought, and associate with worldliness, or recalls those formerly obtained that are past, cease, and change, and then joy arises him. Such joy as this is called joy based on the former home life. An aversion, boredom, which is dissimilar to the similar joy, is fits for an enemy. So gladness should be practiced, free from fear of that, for it is not possible to practice gladness and be disconnected with the remote abodes and things connected with higher profitableness simultaneously. 101. Equanimity has equanimity of unknowing based on the home life as near enemy, since both share in ignoring faults and virtues. Such unknowing has been described in the way beginning, on seeing a visible object with the eye. Equanimity arises in a foolish, infatuated ordinary man, in the untaught ordinary man who has not conquered his limitation. He has not conquered future karma result, who is unperceiving of danger. Such equanimity as this does not surmount the visible object. Such equanimity as this is called equanimity based on home life, and greed and resentment, which are dissimilar to similar unknowing, are its far enemies. Therefore, equanimity must be practiced free from fear of that, for it is not possible to look on with equanimity and be inflamed with greed or resentful simultaneously. Simultaneously, object is single. Just a minute. Object is a single living being or many beings, as a mental object consisting in a concept. The order in extension. 103. The extension of the object that takes either in access or in absorption. Here is the order of it. Just as skilled plowman first delimits an area, then does his plowing. So first a single dwelling should be delimited on loving kindness, developed towards all beings there in the way beginning. In the dwelling may all beings be free from enmity. When his mind has become malleable and wieldy with respect to that, he can then delimit 2 dwellings. Next, he can successfully delimit 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1 street, half a village, whole village, the district, kingdom, 1 direction, and so on up to 1 world sphere or beyond that, and develop loving kindness towards beings in such areas. Likewise, the compassion and so on. This is order in extending here. The outcome. Just as the immaterial states are the outcome of the kasinas, and the base consisting of neither perception nor non-perception is the outcome of concentration, the fruition resentment is the outcome of insight, and the attainment of cessation is the outcome of serenity coupled with insight. So the divine abiding of equanimity is the outcome of the first 3 divine abidings. First, for just as the gable rafters cannot be placed in the air without having first set upon the scaffolding and built in a framework of beams, so it is not possible to develop the 4th jhana in the 4th divine abiding without having already developed the 3rd jhana in the earlier 3 divine abidings. 4 questions. Number 105. And here it may be asked, but why are loving kindness, compassion, gladness, equanimity called for divine abidings? And why are they 4? And what is the order? And what is their order? And why are they called measureless states in the Abhidhamma? 106. It may be replied, the divineness of the abiding, Brahma Vihara, should be understood here in the sense of best and in the sense of immaculate. For these abidings are the best in being the right attitude towards beings. And just as Brahma gods abide with immaculate minds, so meditators who associate themselves with these abidings abide on the equal footing with Brahma gods. So they are called a divine abiding in the sense of best and the sense of immaculateness. 107. Here are the answers to the questions beginning why there are only 4. Their number 4 is due to the paths to purity, and others set out for others in their order in their aim as welfare and the rest. Their scope is found to be immeasurable, so measureless states their name. 108. For among these, loving kindness is the way to purity for one who has much ill will. Compassion is that one who has much cruelty. Gladness is that one for one who has much aversion, boredom. The equanimity is that for one who has much greed. Also, attention given to beings is only 4-fold. That is to say, as bringing welfare, as removing suffering, as being glad at their success, and as unconcerned. That is to say, impartial neutrality. And one abiding in the measureless states should be practice loving kindness, and the rest, like a mother with 4 sons, namely child, invalid, one with the flush of youth, and one busy with his own affairs. For she wants the child to grow up, wants the invalid to get well, wants the one with the flush of youth to enjoy for long the benefit of youth, and is not at all bothered about one who is busy with his own affairs. That is why measureless states are 4, as due to path to purity, others set out of 4. 109. One who wants to develop these 4 should practice them towards beings, first as the promotion of the aspect of welfare, and loving kindness has the promotion of the aspects of welfare as its characteristic. Next, the seeing or hearing or judging that brings whose welfare has been thus wished for are at mercy of suffering. They should be practiced as the promotion aspect of the removal of suffering, and compassion has the promotion of aspect of removal of suffering as its characteristic, and then seeing the success of those whose welfare has been wished for and removal of those suffering has been wished for, they should be practiced and as being glad. And gladness has the act of gladdening as its characteristic of, but after that is there is nothing to be done, and so they should be practiced as a neutral aspect. In other words, the state of the onlooker. The equanimity has the promotion aspect of neutrality as its characteristic. Therefore, since their respective aims are the respect of welfare, etc., the order should be understood to correspond with loving kindness first, state first, then compassion, gladness, and equanimity at the last. 110. All of them, however, occur with the measureless scope, for their scope is measureless beings, and instead of assuming measure such as loving kindness, etc., should be developed only towards a single being, or in an area of such an extent, they occur with universal pervasion. Thus, why it was said, their number 4 is due to the pure paths to purity, and the other sets of 4, their order to their aim as welfare, and the rest, their scope is found to be immeasurable, so measureless state their name, as producing 3 jhanas and 4 jhanas. Now, 111. Though they have single characteristic in having measureless scope, yet the first 3 are only of triple and the quadruple jhana, respectively in the fourfold and fivefold reckoning. Why? Because they are not disassociate from joy. But why are their aims not disassociate from joy? Because they are the escape from ill will, etc., which are originated by grief. But at last one belongs only to the remaining single jhana. Why? Because it is associated with equanimous feeling. For the divine abiding of equanimity that occurs in the aspect of neutrality towards beings does not exist apart from equanimous, that is to say, neither painful nor pleasant feeling. 112. However, someone might say this. It has been said by the Blessed One in the Book of 8, speaking of the measureless states in general, next bhikshu, you should develop the concentration with applied thought and sustained thought, and you should develop it without applied thought and with sustained thought only, and you should only develop it without applied thought and without sustained thought. You should develop it with happiness, and you should develop without happiness, and you should develop it accompanied by gratification. You should develop it accompanied with equanimity. Consequently, all 4 measureless states have quadruple and quintuple jhana. 113. He should be told, do not put it like that, for if that were so, then contemplation of the body, etc., would also have quadruple and quintuple jhana. But there is not even the first jhana in the contemplation of feeling or in the other 2, so do not misrepresent the Blessed One by adherence to the latter. The enlightened one's word is profound and should be taken as it is intended, giving due weight to the teachers. 114. And the intention here is this. The Blessed One, it seems, was asked to teach the Dhamma thus. Venerable Sir, it would be good if the Blessed One would teach me the Dhamma in brief, so that having heard the Blessed One's Dhamma, I may dwell alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and self-exerted. But the Blessed One, who had no confidence yet in that bhikkhu, since although he had already heard the Dhamma, he had nevertheless gone on living there, instead of going to do the ascetic duties, and the Blessed One expressed his lack of confidence. Thus, so too, some misguided man merely questions me, and when the Dhamma is expounded to them, they still fancy that they need not follow me. However, the bhikshu had the potentiality for the attainment of arhatship, and so he advised him again, saying, therefore, bhikkhu, you should train thus. My mind shall be steadied, quite steadied internally, and arisen evil, unforgettable things shall not obsess my mind, and remain, you should train thus. But what is stated in that advice is basic concentration consisting in mere unification mind internally in the sense of oneself. 115. After that he told him about its development by means of loving kindness, in order to show that he should not rest content with just that much, but should intensify his basic concentration in this way. As soon as your mind has become quite steadied internally, the bhikkhu had arisen evil unprofitable things. Do not obsess your mind and remain, then you should train thus. The mind for deliverance of loving kindness will be developed by me. Frequently practiced, made the vehicle, made the foundation, established, consolidated, and properly undertaken. You should train thus, bhikkhu. After which he said further, as soon as this concentration has been thus developed by you, bhikkhu, and then frequently practiced, then you should develop this concentration and applied thought and sustained thought, and you should develop it accompanied by equanimity. 116. The meaning is this, bhikshu: when this basic concentration has been developed by you by means of loving kindness, then instead of resting content with just that much, you should make this basic concentration each quotable and a quintable jhana in other object by further developing it in the way beginning with applied thought. 117. And having spoken thus, he further said, as soon as the concentration has thus developed by you, bhikkhu, and frequently practiced, then you should train thus. The mind deliverance of compassion will be developed by me, pointing out that you should affect its further development by means of quotable and quotable jhana is other object, these development being preceded by remaining divine abiding compassion and the rest. 118. Having thus shown how its further development by means of quotable and quotable jhana is preceded by loving kindness, etc., and having told him, as soon as this concentration has been developed by you, bhikkhu, and frequently practiced, then you should train thus. I shall dwell contemplating body as a body, etc. He concluded the discourse with arahantship as its culmination thus. As soon as this concentration has been developed by you, bhikkhu, completely developed, then wherever you go, and you will go in comfort. Wherever you stand, you will stand in comfort. Wherever you sit, you will sit in comfort. Wherever you make you couch, you will do so in comfort. But from that, it must be understood that the three beginnings with loving kindness have only triple quotable jhana, and that equanimity has only one single remaining jhana, and they are expounded in the same way in Abhidhamma as well. The highest limit of all, 119. And while they are twofold by way of triple quotable jhana and the single remaining jhana, still they should be understood to be distinguishable in each case by a different efficacy, consisting in having beauty as the highest, etc. For they are also described in the Halidavan Sana Sutta, according as it is said, bhikshus, mind deliverance of loving kindness as beauty as the highest, I say. The mind deliverance of compassion has the base consisting of boundless space as the highest, I say. Mind deliverance of gladness has the base consisting of boundless consciousness as the highest, I say. Mind deliverance of equanimity has the base consisting of nothingness as the highest. 120. But Why are they described in this way? Because each is the respective basic support for each. For beings in unrepulsive to one who abides in loving kindness, being similar with the unrepulsive aspect, when he applies his mind to unrepulsive pure colors such as black, blue, his mind enters into them without difficulty. So loving kindness is the basic support for the liberation by the beautiful, but not for what is beyond that. That is why it is called having beauty as to the highest. 121. One who abides in compassion has come to know thoroughly the danger in materiality, since compassion is aroused in him when he is the suffering of beings that has its material sign cause, beating with sticks and so on. So, well knowing the danger in materiality, when he removes whichever kasina concept he was contemplating, whether that of the earth kasina or another, he applies his mind to that space that remains, which is escape from materiality, and then his mind enters into that space without difficulty. So compassion is the basic support for the welfare of boundless space, but not for what is beyond that. That is why it's called having the base consisting of boundless space as the highest. 122. When he abides in gladness, his mind becomes familiar with apprehending consciousness. Since gladness is aroused in him when he sees beings, consciousness arisen in the form of rejoicing over some reason for why. Then when he surmounts the sphere of boundless space that he had already attained in due course, and applies his mind to the consciousness that had its object of space, his mind enters into it without difficulty. So gladness is the basic support for the base consisting boundless compassion, but not what is beyond that. That is why called having the sphere of boundless consciousness as the highest. 123. When he abides in equanimity, his mind becomes skilled in apprehending what is, in the ultimate sense, non-existent, because his mind has arisen diverted from apprehension of what it is existing in the ultimate sense, namely pleasure, release from pain, etc., owing to having no further concerns such as may beings be happy, or may beings be released from pain, or may they not lose the success they have obtained. Now his mind has become used to being diverted from apprehension of what is existent in the ultimate sense, and his mind has become skilled in apprehending what is non-existing in the ultimate sense. That is to say, living beings, which are a concept, or so, when he surmounts the base consisting of boundless consciousness attained in due course, and apply his mind to the absence, which is non-existent, as to individual essence of consciousness, which is our reality, is become in the ultimate sense, then his mind enters into that nothingness, that non-existent without difficulty. So equanimity is the basic support for the base consisting of nothingness, but not for what is beyond that. That is why it is called having the base consisting nothingness as the highest. 124. When he has understood thus the special efficacy of each reside respectively in having beauty as the highest, etc., he should beside understand how they bring to perfection all the good states beginning with the giving. For the great beings' minds retain their balance by giving preference to welfare being, by dislike of being suffering, by desire for various success achieved by beings so to last, and by impartiality towards all beings. And to all beings they give gifts, which are source of pleasure, without discriminating. Thus, it must be given to this one. It must not be given to this one. And in order to avoid doing harm to beings, they undertake the precepts of virtue. They practice renunciation for the purpose of perfecting the virtue. They cleanse the understanding for the purpose of non-confusion about what is good and bad for beings. They constantly arouse energy, having beings' welfare and happiness at heart. When they have acquired heroic fortitude through supreme energy, they become patient with beings, many kinds of faults. They do not deceive when promising, we shall give you this, we shall do this for you. They are unshakably resolute upon beings' welfare and happiness. Through unshakable loving kindness, they place them first before themselves. Through equanimity, they expect no reward. Having thus fulfilled the 10 perfections, these divine abidings then perfect all the good states, classed as the 10 powers, 4 kinds of fearlessness, 6 kinds of knowledge not shared by our disciples, and 18 states of enlightened one. This is how they bring to perfection all the good states, beginning with giving. The 9th chapter, called Description of the Divine Abiding, in the treatise of the development of concentration in the path of purification, Vishuddhimagga, composed for the purpose of gladdening good people. So that concludes the chapter 9. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's do the dedication of merits. This is very, very interesting point of view of how the for immeasurable or Brahmaviras are presented from that point of view is very essential to gain the jhanas, and even as much as gaining all the 4 fearlessness and 10 powers, 6 knowledges, all are mentioned in 18 specific enlightened factors. All are mentioned as a result of doing this practice. No wonder why they are called divine abidings. So let's do the dedication merit. Where has been freely with the generation.